Here now is Solutionaries.
I know, no one wants to talk about it, but we will all face it. It's a tough topic, and we'll tackle it like we tackle all tough topics on Solutionaries, by having the difficult conversation. Here's why I want to talk about it. In the last year and a half, I lost my mother and my father within 6 months of each other. My mother died from Alzheimer's, my father from cancer. Watching my parents' discomfort at the end of their lives made me want to explore end-of-life solutions. Pain is common in terminal illnesses. According to the National Institutes of Health, more than 70% of patients with advanced cancer experience severe pain. Some states have legislated more end-of-life options, and there are options like palliative care to keep people comfortable at the end of their lives. It has worked for many people, but it's not always readily accessible. There's a growing movement in our country around dying with dignity. It basically means maintaining autonomy and avoiding suffering.
People want the ability to control their suffering at the end of life, but unfortunately, the issue of medical aid in dying has become very partisan.
Kimberly Callanan is the Chief Program Officer with Compassion and Choices, a nonprofit organization that empowers everyone to chart their end-of-life journey. She says medical aid in dying is becoming more popular.
And I think what you're seeing is more and more people having personal experiences with the end of life, watching somebody that they love unnecessarily suffer.
Right now, 10 states and Washington, D.C. have medical aid in dying legislation. Florida, Texas, Michigan, and Virginia are not among them. But what is it? Medical aid in dying allows a terminally ill person who has 6 months or less to live to request a prescription from their doctor for a lethal dose of medication. They can self-ingest that medication to die peacefully in their sleep and avoid suffering, and they decide when. But what if you have a terminal illness and you live in a state that does not allow medical aid in dying? What solutions are there for you to be comfortable and not suffer at the end of life? We're exploring palliative care.
So palliative care is really months and years before hospice.
Nita Robbins is a nurse practitioner in palliative care for a company called Amedisys.
And it's very different in that palliative care manages symptoms in the home: pain, shortness of breath, depression, nausea, vomiting, while a patient is still seeking aggressive treatments or aggressive therapies.
She is currently caring for 74-year-old Joseph Nicolella.
3 years ago, I was diagnosed at stage 4 prostate cancer, which meant it was already spread, it's already in the bones, it's already moved about, yet I had no symptoms. I was playing golf 5 days a week and doing my thing.
Nicolella went through a series of radiation and chemo treatments, but nothing has worked. His doctors say he now has months to live.
Even though I have had numerous treatments, a lot of it's related to my genetics. So it's not a matter of that these things won't work for other people. They just didn't work for me. Prognosis isn't very good right now. It's, I would say, under a year.
That rolled off your tongue so easily. How does it feel to say that?
Pragmatic. I do a lot of thinking and talking, especially with Ellen and now with Nita. I'm being a realist that once you have this condition, the best you can do is to live a quality of life for the time that you have left. You know the end is coming. Am I happy about it? No. By myself, I'm not so happy. But we've had lots of discussions.
Are you afraid?
Certainly.
What makes him emotional is thinking about his grandchildren.
Here she comes.
Want to see her grandchildren, so forth. So, no matter how pragmatic I am, I'm afraid of it. So, sorry.
That's okay. It's okay. One of the benefits of palliative care is it allows you to continue with aggressive treatments if you choose. You can't do that on hospice. Joe is still fighting and recently started a new treatment. When we were talking about treatments, you said some days aren't great.
Every chemo that, I can only speak from my experience, has a side effect of some kind or another. It affects blood flow, it affects nausea, it gives you diarrhea, it gives you pain. And they last for either 4 or 5 days or 6 months. It's hard to live through those. The last one was horrendous. I had nausea for 6 or 7 days, anxiety attacks. It's terrible. But and everybody goes through it.
And that's where Robbins comes in.
So I'm very well versed on which opioid works for what type of pain. I have a lot of experience in that. So when something is not working, the patient can reach out to me and I can make that adjustment, whether it's over the phone, whether it's from my house, or whether it's actually doing a visit in person. So that's very different than trying to get a hold of the physician. Oftentimes patients call, they leave a message, and it might be 3 or 4 days before they're able to get to their physician. So what does that mean? It means a patient sits at home and is in pain, or they end up going to the hospital.
One of the drawbacks of palliative care is it's not always available everywhere outside of hospitals. For example, Robbins' company, Amedisys, is the only company in Lake and Sumter counties that sees patients in the home, which is important for many people.
I know in the hospital that they have palliative teams that go around and see patients and see families, but because there's so few palliative providers in the area, I think that's why people don't really know that it's a service that is even available.
Were you familiar with palliative care?
No.
Before? Okay.
No. I got familiar with it because my wife pursued it. And she had read about it, heard about it, and contacted a couple people. But there wasn't anything local. I didn't want to do it because it sounded like here's the end. Palliative care is going to ease me into wherever I go. But what I learned from participating in it is that it's made my life a lot easier. It's still degrading, but it made it a lot easier.
Now, since this interview was filmed, Joseph Nicolella entered hospice care. This means he is no longer receiving aggressive treatments like chemotherapy for his cancer. Like palliative care, hospice focuses on a patient's comfort and family support. One important thing to note is that palliative services are covered by Medicare with some out-of-pocket expenses. Now, I told you earlier about my mom and dad and the discomfort they experienced. So here's some advice I wish I'd known before they passed. 1, get your affairs in order now. We all think we'll get to that later. 2, make decisions about what your priorities are at the end of your life now. 3, one thing I wish I had done more with my parents is record videos. I have voicemail messages that I have saved, and it's nice to hear their voices, but seeing their faces and hearing their voices is different. Now, if you have advice you'd like to share on this topic, I would love to hear it. Go to the Solutionaries YouTube channel, find this video, and leave your comment below. Still ahead on Solutionaries, donating your body to science. It can have many benefits, like advancing medical research and training the next generation of health professionals. It could also solve cold case murders.
What we'd want to do is integrate the data from a variety of body farms or field forensic laboratories throughout the country. It's like a puzzle in a lot of ways.
The Solutionaries team heads to one of the nation's only body farms where researchers are learning to use honeybees to solve crimes. Welcome back to Solutionaries, and today it's a tough topic. We're talking end-of-life solutions. Death is something most of us don't want to talk about, yet at some point we will all face it. Before the break, we looked at palliative care and dying with dignity.
And I think what you're seeing is more and more people having personal experiences with the end of life, watching somebody that they love unnecessarily suffer.
And how some solutions aren't readily accessible.
Oftentimes patients call, they leave a message, and it might be 3 or 4 days before they're able to get to their physician.
But what about after you die? Some people choose to donate their body to science with the hopes of advancing medical research for generations to come. Our Solutionaries team found one way researchers are using those donated bodies to solve crimes in Virginia and nationwide.
You can donate your body to science for after you die. What does that mean? Well, one option is donating it to a body farm. What's a body farm, you ask? It's where they study human decomposition.
We're going to bury bodies under the ground. What we're looking for is what happened, when did it happen, what kind of evidence.
It's something that the research community will certainly benefit from, forensic scientists will benefit from.
I think the research is very groundbreaking.
Given my life to science, I plan on giving my body to science.
And it was always my dream to create this facility and we could help more people and the families of our victims.
We're the 8th body farm in the United States. We're very proud of that. These little scientists with wings on them, they're going to be able to take us to the body. They're going to be able to tell us where someone has been dumped. I'm Mary Ellen O'Toole, and I'm the director of the Forensic Science program here at George Mason University. Working a serial murder case obviously is one of the greatest challenges because oftentimes the victims are found outside, and now we have this body farm where we're studying the very thing that I worked on in the FBI, outdoor homicide scenes. If a human body is dumped outside, they begin to decompose, and honeybees, they fly around and they land on flowers and other things, and then they take that back to their hives. If, let's say, the police department or the FBI is looking for a body in a large field, it oftentimes can be a very Herculean effort. We know that there are beekeepers all over the United States. We can go around that area and we can contact those people that own the bees to see if they would allow us to test their honey. And if it tests positive, then we can estimate that the body is likely within 2 to 5 miles. We're talking about narrowing down, it could be 100 miles, it could be 50 miles, but from an investigative perspective, that's a big area to cover to be able to determine, is somebody out here?
There'll be a homicide and they'll move the body. So now we want to know, was there a body here or not? So we have to look at the chemistry that's still remaining, either in the soil or in the air around that area. I'm Brian Eckenrode, and I'm a research associate professor here at George Mason University working in the forensics program.
How important is this body farm to science?
It's one of 8 in the country, and we have a given soil type here in the mid-Atlantic. So what we'd want to do is integrate the data from a variety of body farms or field forensic laboratories throughout the country. It's like a puzzle in a lot of ways. We're looking for that common set of chemicals that you would say that is human, independent of temperature, humidity, soil type, and a variety of other factors.
And that hasn't been proven yet?
That has not been determined yet. We do not know. We kind of got some ideas, but the common ones throughout a variety of soil types has not been determined yet.
I would find human remains, and it was very difficult to pinpoint the time since death. I'm Emily Rancourt, and I'm the Associate Director of the Forensic Science program here at George Mason University. So the body farm here is my dream. I am a former crime scene specialist with the Prince William County Police Department. For the police, I used to investigate homicides, suicides, suspicious deaths.
By having a body farm here, you are providing a solution to crime scene investigators?
Yes. We are helping crime scene investigators have this very important data. So we will have bodies that will be put out here in the summer months, in the winter months, in the fall. We will also have different scenarios that we create with the bodies. We might take a body and wrap it up in carpet and leave it on the ground of the facility. We want to see a body that is rolled up in carpet. How long does that take to decompose? Does it take longer? Does it take shorter because it's not going to be having the direct elements hitting it? We're going to bury bodies under the ground.
What we're looking at here is a ground penetrating radar device, also known as GPR. The device is very simple in the fact that the lower portion of this emits a radar or a sound signal into the ground. It's basically penetrating down, and anything that it sees into the ground that it hits, the signal will come back up. It's just like sonar. So if there's an object, such as a body, a gun, could even be a rock, in the ground, you would see a signal on here. I'm Steve Burmeister. I'm a professor here at the Forensic Science program. We're standing in probably the most complex environment that you're going to use this device. A very skilled operator has to interpret the data to understand what is a root versus something else. What we'd like to do here at the Body Farm is to put a donor into the ground and study it over the course of time. The technology now allows scientists to know things that they didn't know before, and I think that's where the secret here. We're using technology to leverage it.
And there's no rhyme or reason to this. It's just as we find them, we are marking off our evidence here. So George Mason is the very first certified forensic Faro University laboratory, where we now are able to offer a course, which is a 3D scanning course, and we teach documentation of crime scenes. What would take a crime scene investigator hours upon hours to get their photographs, get their measurements, this can do in just a few minutes. And we can create our 3D walkthrough, our fly-throughs, we could do bloodstain pattern analysis, we could do trajectory analysis, we can walk a judge, a jury, or any of the prosecutors or defense attorneys through our scenes. And we are able to show that to other people as if they were there.
So when you donate your body to science, it means that they can do the research to prove the science that solves the cases and trains the next generation.
What these people have done when they contribute their body to science will live forever. This is the kind of research that will improve these kinds of cases, I think, all over Virginia and ultimately, hopefully, all over the country.
Are there any limitations to what you can do out here at the Body Farm?
Now that we have this facility, the sky is the limit. We are able to do anything that we would like to research. Where the limitation comes in is the funding.
I think we don't have any problem getting support from communities. They would say, well, why haven't you done it yet? But it's other entities that we have to still work through and convince that it's important.
An individual prior to their death can decide that they want to donate their remains to the Body Farm once they die. It's an incredibly personal and awesome decision when somebody thinks that upon their death, they want to contribute their body to science. I mean, it's the ultimate gift. It's the ultimate unselfish act. The most prominent aspect of all of this is to be able to do a much better job of identifying and locating human remains in order to make sure that the person responsible for the homicide is identified, apprehended, and prosecuted.
You know, we always say there's never closure for these families, but it gives them answers. And that's what we're looking to do out here at the Body Farm. We want to bring answers for these families. We want to give a voice to our victims who can no longer speak for themselves anymore. And we want to bring all of this together and collect the data so that we can help the future generations that are working as crime scene investigators.
While body donation to science is not for everyone, those who are interested can learn more about the process and how to make arrangements. It's important to work with a reputable organization and to ensure that loved ones are aware of the decision. We've posted some of those resources on clickorlando.com. On Solutionaries, we are always looking for solutions to life's toughest problems. You can explore all the topics covered on this show right now on the new 6 Plus app for your smart TV, like solutions for home ownership when affordability is a struggle.
We provide an option for housing, for home ownership in price ranges that are just not really available right now for families.
Or breaking the stigma on life-threatening illnesses or mental disorders.
A lot of times, it's the parents, that acknowledge it and say there's a problem and try to seek resources, help their child, not commit suicide probably or do harm to themselves or others, because that's what the reality is.
It's all available for free on the new 6 Plus app. I'm Louis Bolden. See you next time on Solutionaries.